bought my property in 2023, the land held a lot of promise. But it was a promise that would only be fulfilled with a lot of work. There were logging trails crisscrossing the hill around the 25 acres, but where those logging trails weren't cut, much of the forest was unmanaged, and the forest immediately behind the building area and my lawn was standing dead eastern white pine. These trees had a tendency to blow down in a big storm, and they'd fall over and cause a wreck on the forest floor. This debris also presented a fire hazard during the dry months of the summer. One of my goals for the summer of 2025 was to clear up this hill immediately behind where I'd be building my retirement home. Throughout the summer, I spent many weekends cutting and hauling brush, cutting down trees, especially the 2 nuisance trees that were blocking my Starlink signal, in hopes that I could clear up the hill and make it presentable. Don't get me wrong, I love living in a green space, but these standing dead pines are a danger. Harsh Adirondack winters and heavy summer storms can take these trees down in an instant. And if those trees are directly behind my tent, then it becomes my problem. So as summer slid into fall and September and October approached, I continued to work on the forest, cutting, hauling, dragging bush, making refuge for small wildlife like this squirrel. Nice flex, Rocky. This is the summer-long project of clearing off this hill. I don't know if you remember from the original video where I had all of the trees and stuff that were laying down here. The goal is to get this hill as a backdrop to the lawn. I don't want additional lawn. I don't want to have to mow all of that. But what I do also not want is a dark, overgrown, standing dead forest of eastern white pine. You can still see there's quite a lot of eastern white pine left here, but this entire thing was overgrown with standing dead eastern white pines. And so it's been a summer-long effort to clear those trees. A lot of these were taken down when this big tree fell over. I still have a bunch of these stumps that were uprooted. I don't know what I'm going to do with those. What I did do, though, with the rest of the hill, and you can probably see it over there, is I took all of the slash pine, the garbage, the scrap, the dead sticks, everything that I could get up off the side of the hill, and I still have a little bit of effort to go here, but I dragged it little by little all the way over here. Now this is a natural wet area. You can start to see these swampy plants because there is another spring up there that runs right down through this area. And so the goal was to get rid of this, and you can see that that's about 3.5 or 4 feet tall. You can see the scope of all of the stuff that I had to move this summer. So this is twofold. Get this garbage off the side of the hill, make use of it absorbing the water, slowing it down so that it has a chance to sink down into the ground here. And it also makes some wildlife habitat. I've noticed that I've got a lot more red squirrels, gray squirrels, chipmunks, small animals, small birds. And I think part of it is because I've been creating these little mini habitat slash piles around the property to get rid of the garbage wood. Ideally I would burn this, but I don't have any place to burn this much. But what it's allowed me to do is selectively leave like these hemlocks, which I love. And I will thin these back. They're a little bit overgrown. But I want to have all of the possible contenders. And then when I find one, like this one looks like it's doing really well, I'll probably cut back the ones around it
Like this one's started to be uprooted, and that will give that more light and breathing space. And I also planted perennial wildflowers and clover, and this was just planted last week, this clover here. So you can see it's already germinating and starting to grow up. So it's both of the flowers and the clover that I planted can either be planted in the spring or in the fall. And so I had an opportunity where there was going to be 3 days of solid rain, you know, just a soaking rain for 3 days. So I got out here, finished the clearing to get all of this stuff scraped up, because this pine straw will just acidify the soil, I believe. These eastern white pines are a monoculture, which is why there were so many of them here. They kill the ground so that nothing else can grow. So since I've started clearing them out, you can see hemlock sprouting up, there's maples sprouting up, there are beech trees sprouting up, there's another little maple there. And so now that the light is getting down to the floor of the forest, now other things can flourish. These greens were not here before. So taking the time to clean this up is hopefully going to provide me with a backdrop to my lawn of a natural wildflower meadow that apparently just sprung up, but it was a lot of work to get to this. I spent some time yesterday, as you can see, cutting back all the stumps to get them out of the view. I have a lot more work to do getting all of this garbage off the hill, but it is September 28th, I want to say, and I'm running out of time. I've got about 3 weeks before I head back to Florida. So I have to kind of be judicious with my time and use it where it's going to be most appropriate, hence the milling of the tree over there to get that off my driveway. But I am super happy with the way this looks. I think this is just so much, but not this part. This is garbage. But the hill being open, letting the light come down to the forest floor. I mean, even these little yellow flowers, these weren't here previously. So these have just sprung up this year because the light is able to reach the forest floor. Maples, beech, or that's probably an aspen, to tell you the truth, but still, all of this was covered with that kind of stuff. Eastern white pine, overgrown. Everywhere you see a stump cut is a tree that I took down. And so now I've just got to move this back up the hill. I've got another slash pile up there. I've got another slash pile over there. And so I'm trying to move this stuff out of view, put it somewhere where it's going to do the most good by trapping water and allowing it to sink down in instead of rushing down the hill, which was a problem for the last few years. But this area that was complete mud when I was cutting boards last year has been dry all summer, and we've gotten rain, but it's just the mitigation efforts with the slash piles, slowing that water down before it gets down here, has kept it to a minimum. It still gets a little bit wet down here, but it's nowhere near like it was when I bought the place or over the last few years. So there's still work to do, but this is a lot of progress for something simple like just getting rid of these nasty trees.
It was a lot of work, but in just a few short summers, I was able to take some overgrown, unkempt land from this to something that looks more presentable, that I'm proud to call my future home. The summer of 2025 was extremely hot and dry, with much of the Adirondack region experiencing drought. The trees and plants responded to this much like they do in fall, by turning colors and storing water in the roots. Local animals started to get ready for the winter season, and I stumbled across something, a stash of giant puffball mushrooms in a meadow near my driveway. I normally don't eat wild mushrooms, but I thought I'd give it a try.
Okay, so this is really exciting. I found one of these at the end of my driveway, and I let it go to seed, spread the spores around, and I thought I would come back maybe next fall or next spring to have a crop of these, but I don't know whether it's the spores that I spread around or pre-existing spores that we're getting ready to go, but I have these giant puffball mushrooms. Now I've done the research. Now let's do the reveal here. So, and when I say giant, I mean as big as my head giant. So that is a massive, there's my hand. That is a massive mushroom. Now, there are no other mushrooms in the world that have the same texture, the same body. I mean, I can tell by the videos that I've watched and what people have said that I'm pretty sure this is a giant puffball. Now, if I cut it open and there are gills like you would see in the cap of a normal mushroom, then this is no bueno, and it's not something I want to eat, and I can just tear them out and throw them away. But I suspect that this is the edible kind. There's really only one giant puffball mushroom. There are no pretenders that look like it. Even the poisonous ones are small. They're like the size of my fist. There's no other mushroom that I've been able to find that grows to this size and has a marshmallowy texture inside. So if I cut this open and it's white and marshmallowy inside, I'm going to cut the rind off. I'm going to make myself some small steaks. I've got teriyaki sauce and some white wine, and I've got spices in there. I'm going to make a glaze and do a little marinate, and then I'll saute some onions and garlic and have mushroom steaks for dinner, which I've never had before. So I'm kind of excited, but it's all going to come down to, is this the edible kind? So let's see. So I've got two options for cutting here. I've got my chef's knife, and then I have a serrated bread knife. And I'm not really sure which is going to be the best option. I'm thinking, because it's been described as like a bready texture inside, a very soft bread, that maybe the bread knife is going to be the way to go. I'm going to start by slicing just a little bit off the end to see if it's the edible kind, to check the bread knife and see if this is going to work. And I'm going to have to set this down. Hopefully you guys can see this and it doesn't fall over, but let's take a look. Now there's no way. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Oh my God. Bread is a perfect description for that. That looks just like a loaf of white bread, like sourdough bread without the holes. That's amazing. All right, so I'm going to take a little bit more off because I want to cut all of this rind away, and I want to make sure I've got a decent sized mushroom. I don't know if this is going to shrink at all when I cook it. So I'm going to cut probably a slice from in here. I'll cut well away from the rind, and it'll be nice, clean. Let's get into the light here so you can see this. It literally looks like bread. It looks just like bread. That's crazy. It's already starting to oxidize as soon as it touches the atmosphere. All right, I'm going to get this prepped and hopefully into a marinade, which is going to take a little while, and I'll be back. So this is crazy. It is like soft bread. Now this is using the bread knife, and this is using my chef's knife. You can see that there's like a little bit of tearing, but with the bread knife, it's a perfectly clean cut. So bread knife it is. I'm going to get on to prepping this food. So I have sauteed up some onions and garlic till they're soft. I don't want to overcook them. This is cast iron. It heats up really fast. It holds heat for a long time. So now I'm ready. I've got my soy sauce, or teriyaki sauce, excuse me, teriyaki glaze. Very salty. It's a lot saltier than I thought. I've got some balsamic vinegar and some honey and a little bit of smoke salt. Tiny pinch, because this was already really salty, and some black pepper in a glaze. And I've just been marinating this in here for the last couple minutes while I did my onions. And before my pan starts to smoke and burn, I'm going to throw a little bit more, see if I can. I don't have any good way of recording this. In position to watch this. Probably going to be a horrific fail. I'm going to shoot a little squirt of spray oil into the pan. I'm going to get a little bit of butter also into the pan. A pat. I'm going to try and get this out of here without it going crazy and falling apart. I need to drain off some of this liquid. Okay, that's looking pretty good. That was all the way down because that is super hot. And oh my goodness, the smell. I wish there was smell-o-vision. The teriyaki and the white wine vinegar is coming through. This shouldn't take more than a minute or two. It's supposed to brown up really fast. Try and get all the sides of it up against the sides of the pan. I'm gonna let that sit for a minute or two, and then I'm gonna cut another one of these. I found that the get this out of the way. I found that the bread knife is absolutely the way to go. So let's just cut another round off of here. Try and look at the bottom of this and see what we look like. Oh yeah, that's already browned. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, let's get it out in the sunlight. Look at that. Oh my goodness. Holy crap, that looks delicious. All right, that took a lot less time than I thought it was going to. That's on the lowest setting that I can put it on. It's a mushroom, so it doesn't really necessarily need to be cooked. We're just adding flavor and a little bit of caramelization to it. The teriyaki is definitely caramelizing on that surface. Look at that. Let's see what the bottom is looking like here. Very firm. I mean, it's mushy and it'll hold a finger impression, just like a soft loaf of bread. But it's still, I gotta get this off the heat. It's done. And I wish I would have had a little sense of forethought and flip it. Oh my goodness, look at that. That's crazy. All right, well, here's the thing about this sweet sauce. There's a lot of sugar in it, and it burns very quickly. So if you're not watching it, it's likely just gonna burn. So the first one I ruined. Turned my back for a second so I could get some brioche bread on the grill to toast it. And turned back and it was burnt already. So this is attempt number 2. This is from a little bit farther in, slightly larger steak. But I'm just gonna be very cautious with this. I wanted to have that other one warmed up. I also wanted to have some more caramelization on it because it didn't look like it was completely cooked. Like, this is a very dark sauce, and so I think that the sauce had browned, but I don't think that it had actually caramelized anything on the mushroom itself. So we're gonna try and get a better result here. Might need to drop some butter in there. Okay, wow, that happens fast. So I got the steak, I'm gonna call it a steak, the mushroom steak, cooked to what I think is good. And then there was a lot of the teriyaki sauce that came off. So I dropped it in the pan. You can't see anything because of the light, I apologize. I dropped it in the pan, the mushrooms and the garlic back into the pan, and then I deglazed the pan with some balsamic white wine vinegar. So these are going to go over the top. Let's check on our brioche bread. I don't need it to be fully toasted. I just want it to be a little crispy. It looks like it's getting there, so I'm going to actually flip it down onto the burners to give it some lines. Get real fancy. We've got our fully cooked mushroom steak right there, which looks delicious. So I'm going to move these out of the pan before they burn over onto the steak. I'll get the brioche on the side, and then I'll come back with a final reveal. Okay, guys. Cooper is obviously interested in what I've done. I've never had mushroom steaks. Like, I'm not a giant vegetarian. But this is amazing. It's got like a marshmallowy texture to it. The teriyaki glaze, I mean, it's like any other mushroom or tofu or whatever. It tastes like what you cook it in. It's very, very delicate. It's got a spongy texture to it, like it springs back when you cut into it. But then when you put it in your mouth, it's like eating a marshmallow that tastes like smoked teriyaki. I can't describe it other than that. And then the brioche bread is just nice and crispy and sweet. So this is A+ in my book. I'm shocked that I like it as much as I do. You know, being that it's not meat. So the giant puffball mushroom experiment was a success, and I look forward to returning in the spring and see what kind of a crop I get. By the end of September, fall had truly come to the Adirondacks. Days were getting shorter, colors were changing, the nights were getting cooler. It was enjoyable to sit by the fire with a hot cup of coffee and my boot to the flames, and to watch the fall overtake the mountains. But that means that the end of the summer was coming, and I had to get ready to go back to Florida. Thanks for watching these videos. Like and subscribe if you want to see more like this, and please leave a comment, especially if you got some recipe ideas for those mushrooms. Thanks again. See you back here.